on YouTube. Perfect. All right. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Trade Pros. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great day. The day after the long weekend, the Easter celebrations. I know a lot of people are still off, but the markets are open. Welcome to my bedroom. You can see some sporadic plants. We're still in quarantine here in Toronto. And let's get started with this morning update. So we got the camera working perfect this time. Last time it was a little off, no camera at all. But let's start off with OPEC, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the US that have agreed to lead a multinational coalition in major oil production cuts after a drop in demand because of the coronavirus crisis. Now, the deal after a Saudi and a Russia feud kind of devastated oil prices, so that's where this deal came from. As a part of the agreement, 23 countries committed to withhold collectively nearly 10 million barrels of crude oil a day, so 9.7 million barrels to be exact, from global markets. U.S. stock futures edged slightly lower on Monday as trading volumes were thin the day after Easter, naturally, while oil prices faltered after the agreement to cut production. So what happened? Buy the rumor, sell the news type situation as oil kind of fell back down after that was solidified a little more. So this week we have earnings that kick off. The earnings season kicks off, and it'll give investors a first glimpse of the impact of the pandemic shutdown on corporate profits. So a lot of this happened towards the end of this quarter, so that means maybe not all the impact will be priced in, but we're going to get a pretty good clue of what is to come and a potential outlook for the rest of the year, as the next quarters will be a much more indicative figure of what this caused. Now, this week, we've got some big bank earnings like JP Morgan, Wells Fargo reporting on Tuesday, then Bank of America, Citigroup, and Goldman Sachs on Wednesday, and more the rest of the week. So from the west of Texas to the western Canada, energy producers are resorting to desperate measures of shutting down productive wells. So despite the market's recent bounce off its late March lows, many investors who rely on technical analysis remain kind of skeptical about these equities, which we do too. If you are in our live room, you'll find out why. Now, in the US, a partisan impasse over fresh coronavirus relief spending stretched through the weekend as funds for small business loans and business loan programs kind of dropped, and state leaders called for additional federal aid. So lawmakers are also drawing up proposals for federal government to guarantee private company paychecks during the pandemic to suffocate some of the layoff numbers. Now, some analysts and historians see a new era, actually, of big government being birthed out of the current crisis. So one that allows public officials to control more of the economy, which could very well be a reality if this continues, considering that we're nearly 70 million, probably more at this point, of unemployed people in the States, and it's continuously rising. Now, that many people have been laid off. We continue to see the figure rise, and such are cases in the rest of the world. Toronto as well, we're getting mass layoff numbers. Canada too. So no matter what, the scars will likely persist of. It'll probably continue for generations of investors and future managers now living through what is becoming the deepest downturn since the Second World War. So the global pandemic policymakers will hold semi-annual meetings virtually instead of Washington this week. So in the US, health officials and political leaders expressed caution about reopening the economy May 1st, a date some Trump administration officials have posed as a possible time for easing restrictions. Now, this is in a matter of weeks, 2 weeks or so, which we have not seen a slowdown in cases per se or deaths, and they're continuing to reopen this economy step by step, naturally, not just a full flush, but we're nearly 2 million people diagnosed with coronavirus worldwide from reported figures, naturally. The debate about reopening focuses on several data points, including the number of new infections, death counts, the number of admissions to hospital ICUs, and the number of patients to ventilators. So what they think is it's actually slowing down. That's why they're considering reopening, which I think is kind of a stretch, but we'll see. In the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson was discharged from the hospital where he had been treated for COVID-19 after visiting a hospital with COVID-19 patients. So though he won't immediately return to work as he continues to recover, he is off oxygen and doing a lot better. Meanwhile, British government has touted immunity passports as a way of loosening the lockdown, but rolling them out is proving complicated. So immunity passports being giving people who have contracted it already and recovered, or people who have been deemed immune, I guess, the authority to more eased restrictions in terms of quarantine, maybe go out a little more, maybe open up some public areas to those who have this immunity passport, right? Which is an interesting concept, but like they said, proving complicated. Across Western Europe, hospitals are overflowing and morgues struggle to keep up as Spain and Italy continue to be devastated, unfortunately. In Central and Eastern Europe, the governments moved quick to restrict movement and gatherings and infections and have kept it largely under control. So we could see parts of Eastern Europe especially opening up a little sooner. I know, being from Bulgaria, I know that Bulgaria is opening them up mid-May. And they don't really have too many cases, but I feel like they're not taking this as seriously as other places, and they're looking to reopen everything mid-May. So we'll see how the rest of Eastern Europe follows, as there's not that many cases there, but it could get bad if they don't really take this thing seriously. Now, Chinese authorities shut down domestic wild animal traders and fears their goods sparked the pandemic. So, as we all know, it's been circulating that the domestic wild animal trade is what actually sparked this coronavirus. Some presumably call it the first bat to be eaten was a spark of this. So now that Chinese authorities are clamping down on this wild animal trade, they think that they can avoid future pandemics through this cause. Now, officials are actually offering tax incentives to the animal products industry to ship some of the creatures overseas. So instead of keeping them there and using them for food, perhaps, or whatever it is, they're looking to actually offload them in different areas, which will help evade a lot of this trade. Now, in very interesting news, as we have talked about bailout stimulus packages and airlines. So the aid for U.S. airlines included in last month's stimulus package includes $50 billion, half in direct payroll assistance and half in loans and loan guarantees. However, $25 billion to pay salaries and benefits comes with more strings than the largest airlines were hoping for. So Smithfield Foods will keep its Sioux Falls pork plant closed indefinitely, little tidbit, at the urging of the state governors through the company's CEO, warned of dire consequences for farmers and consumers. So that's very interesting. Federal health regulators are expected to push the nursing home industry to inform residents, their families, and staff quickly when facilities confirm COVID-19 cases, according to people with knowledge of the matter. So the Centers for Medical and Medicaid Services could unveil the move as early as this week. Now, we've had a lot of cases in Canada, especially where it spreads through nursing homes and it devastates nursing homes, unfortunately. There are a lot of cases where there's even disability homes that have been hit with, what was it? I think there was like 40 staff members, and then the day after a COVID case arose, 6 staff members remained. So that's for people who cannot really take care of themselves and rely on these people. Having these outbreaks is devastating. So just quick blurb, but to those who are working in the medical field, anyone supporting this, working at the front lines, we appreciate everything that you do and keep it going. It's because of you that a lot of people have recovered and do remain alive. Now, you guys are doing an amazing job, and it's not all just about trading, but we have to take a look at how this does affect markets in our day-to-day lives and how it could affect future investment opportunities, how it could affect the future global economy, and much more. Now, companies are asking for exemption from tariffs on China imports, say widespread shortages of needed disinfectants and other products are being hit by these levies. So at a Procter & Gamble factory, a town with the highest rates of coronavirus case in the world in Albany, workers are racing to keep churning out toilet paper so that these necessities are still at risk of plants closing down and whatnot, even consider essential workers. If coronavirus floods these plants and these areas, then we all get into a little more trouble than we'd hoped for. Now, this is what I had this morning. Everyone, we got a pretty significant drop in the equity market overnight, which we'll cover in our trading room. We're about to jump in our live room right now for everyone, and we're going to take a hold of this opportunity. Not too much volume was traded, unfortunately, which is not the greatest thing I want to see, but we've had a lot of movement. So the reason why, still holiday season, might be a slower day. We'll probably not see too many traders at their desks, considering it is Easter Monday. In the States, a lot of places are closed, so don't expect the craziest movement. We got spoiled last night, so for those who trade the evening session, great work. This morning, we have under 250,000 contracts traded, which is about half of what we normally expect. So without further ado, let's jump in this live room, get it going with our trade pros. And Tony brings up a good point. News on Tuesday on the virus, so we'll be looking forward to that. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, trade pros, and let's get in this room.